is touching lives. Whilst his body is busy dead or dying, he's gone. Sit down, let me show you something here. When Jesus then came back, he picked his body from the grave. Now he has to go and present his blood. But at that time, his body is alive. Follow this. His body is alive. But there mustn't be any blood in that body. That's why he said, touch me. For the spirit doesn't have what? Flesh and bones, not blood. He didn't mention blood. So Jesus is coming back as Jesus, right? To a dead body which has lost its blood, the soul. So you have Jesus, you have his body, you have his blood away from the body. So how do you then quicken the body if the life of the body is in the blood? That's the miracle that Jesus performs at resurrection. The spirit comes and gives life, it gives emotions directly to the body. It's no longer the life that is in the blood that the flesh has to rely on. Can I show you something there? Yes. Jesus wakes up from the dead and then someone comes to touch him. And he says, don't touch me. Yeah. I haven't yet ascended to my Father. Because as the high priest is not supposed to be touched until he presents his blood. So at that point, we know the blood is not yet put where it belongs. So he's saying, don't touch me. Later he comes to Thomas, touch me, feel me. Which means somewhere in between, he ascended into the most holy place and presented his blood which has life. But if his blood is no longer in the body, how come he's alive? It means the life of that body now is no longer in the blood. It's the spirit. Now, sit down. Let me can I show you something? Oh, God help us here. Sit down, please. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. I want you to see this part. It's very critical because it helps you function. The Bible is saying, as we are partakers of flesh and blood, so likewise Jesus himself.
He also himself likewise took part of the same.
Took part of the same. The same what?
Flesh and blood.
Flesh and what?
Blood.
And the reason why he took flesh and blood, the reason is there.
That through death.
That what?
Through death.
So what he wanted Jesus really was to die. And he realized that outside of the flesh and blood, I cannot die. The devil cannot kill the spirit. Because he wanted to deal with death. How do you deal with death unless you find it in its venue? Death occurs in the flesh and blood. So he becomes a partaker of the flesh and blood because he wants to deal with death. But where do you find death? Not in the spirit. He had to put on the uniform where death is occurring. He wants to meet death not in the grave, not in hell, but in his flesh. That is where death is taking place, in the flesh. He wants to conquer, he wants to defeat death in his own flesh. So likewise, on our behalf, because as children we are partakers of the flesh and the blood, In this body, we are partaking of this body. But we are dying in this body. Now, keep on reading. I want you to see something that is happening there to all those that were partakers of the flesh and blood. There's a big problem that we have had. Listen to this.
He also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death
He might what?
he might destroy him that had the power of death, that is the devil.
That's a message for another day. Was the devil then destroyed? Are we dealing with a destroyed devil today? If he didn't, it means then that Jesus failed on his mission. If he succeeded, it means we are dealing with a devil that is destroyed, doing everything that he is doing. Then we'll have to get to the definition of destruction. The reason why he wanted to destroy the devil, because he's the one who has the power over death. The reason why. Read the next verse.
And deliver them.
Because he overcame, he then delivered them. He delivered them. Who?
Who through fear of
Who through
death,
fear
of death,
were what?
were all their lifetime subject
To what?
to bondage.
Were all their lifetime subject to bondage. What bondage? Death. But they did not become slaves to death after their death. There is a word lifetime. Jesu batsira munhu pano. They were all their lifetime subject to bondage because of the fear of death. Now, the word lifetime is time for life, or is time of life. So they are not being bound by death at the end of their life when they die. Lifetime, who through during their lifetime